Hello listeners, this is RK. In this segment of our Rendezvous program, we are going to talk about evolution of sound recording. Why sound recording? Because I was closely associated with the sound recording industry, first as a boom man, then as an assistant recordist for Hindi films, and then as recordist. That's what they used to call them in the late 70s. The sophisticated name of sound engineer came later. Okay, let's dive right into it. I'd like to split the sound recording era into 4 periods. The acoustic era, the electrical era, the magnetic era, and the now digital era. In the early days of sound recording, acoustic recording devices still used horns instead of microphones. These practical recording technologies were entirely mechanical devices. These recorders used a large conical horn to collect and focus the physical air pressure of the sound waves produced by the human voice or musical instruments. A sensitive membrane or diaphragm located at the apex of the cone was connected to a scriber or stylus very similar to what we see in the old gramophone players. And as the changing air pressure moved the diaphragm back and forth, the stylus scratched or made a groove of the sound waves onto a moving recording medium. It was a roll of coated paper or a cylinder or a disc coated with a soft material such as wax or any soft metal. These early recordings were really of low fidelity and volume and captured only a narrow segment of the audible sound spectrum, typically only from about 250 Hz to about 2500 Hz. What do we mean by the sound spectrum? The normal human ear can hear from a low of 50 Hz to 15,000 Hz. So you can see how much of fidelity was lost. So musicians and engineers were forced to adapt to these sonic limitations. That is why you would hear bands of that period often favored louder instruments such as trumpet, cornet, trombone, and the low register brass instruments. And performers also had to arrange themselves strategically around the horn to balance the sound and to play as loudly as possible. The reproduction of domestic phonographs was limited in both frequency range and volume. By the end of the acoustic era, the vinyl disc had become the standard medium for sound recording, and its dominance in the Indian domestic audio market lasted until the end of the 20th century. I'm going to play a reproduction of an early mechanical audio recording. This is Thomas Alva Edison's first speech recorded on a mechanical device.
Spoke in the original phonograph, a little piece of practical poetry. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
How would you have liked to listen to hundreds of hours of music you listen to at this quality? Well, hang on, it's going to improve. Let's get to the next period, which is the electrical era. Somewhere from the 1920s to the late 1945s. The second wave of sound recording history introduced electrical microphones, electronic signal amplifiers, and electromechanical recorders. Sound recording now became sort of a hybrid process, meaning sound could now be captured, amplified, filtered, balanced electrically, and the disc cutting head was now electrically powered. But the actual recording process remained essentially mechanical. The signal was still physically inscribed into a wax master disc, and the consumer discs were mass-produced mechanically by stamping a metal electroform made from the wax master onto a suitable substance, originally a shellac-based compound and later polyvinyl plastic. I worked with a recording company and record producing company called Polydor in Mumbai and in their studios. During that period, the Western electric system generally improved the fidelity of the sound recording, increasing the reproducible frequency range to a much wider band, between 60 Hz at the bottom to 6000 Hz at the top, and allowing a new class of professional, the audio engineer, to capture a fuller, richer, and more detailed and balanced sound on record using multiple microphones which can be connected to multiple channel electronic amplifiers, compressors, filters, and mixers. Electrical microphones led to a dramatic change in the performance of the singers. Electronic amplification had a wide-ranging impact in many areas, enabling the development of broadcast radio, public address system, and the electronically amplified home record players. I'm sure many of you owned gramophone players, both manual and the electric type. In addition, the development of electronic amplifiers for musical instruments now enabled quieter instruments such as the guitar and the string bass to compete on equal terms with the naturally louder wind and horn instruments. Along with these developments, several inventors were engaged in a race to develop practical methods of providing synchronized sound with films. Some early sound films, such as the landmark 1927 film The Jazz Singer, used large soundtrack records which were played on a turntable mechanically interlocked with the projector. Now, here is the sound clip from the film The Jazz Singer from 1927.
Wonderful pals are always hard to find. Some folks have one, some folks have none. And I was alone for years, but fate was kind. And in the end, sent me a friend. Although he's not much higher than my knees, still he's the greatest thing on earth to me. Dirty hands, dirty face, leads the neighbors a chase, but his smile is as cute as can be. Making noise, breaking toys, always fighting the boys.
By the early 1930s, the movie industry had almost universally adopted sound on film technology. This is sort of an involved technology, so I will skip the details. This was in which the audio signal to be recorded was put on the side of the film, and the projector used a steady light and a photoelectric cell to convert the variations back into an electrical signal which was amplified and sent to loudspeakers behind the screen. The adoption of sound on film also helped the movie industry audio engineers to make rapid advances in the process we now know as multi-tracking, by which multiple separately recorded audio sources such as voices, sound effects, and background music can be replayed simultaneously, mixed together, and synchronized with the action on film to create new blended audio tracks of great sophistication and complexity. One of the best known examples of constructed composite sound from that area is the famous Tarzan yell, created for the series of Tarzan movies starring Johnny Weissmuller. Only about 4 years later, India produced its first talkie film called Alam Ara. It starred Suraya and Sham. Listen to the advancement in just 4 years.
लेके दिल चुपके से किया मजबूर हाय, लेके दिल चुपके से किया मजबूर हाय, लेके दिल चुपके से क्या मोहब्बत का है यही दस्तूर हाय, किया मजबूर हाय, क्या मोहब्बत का है यही दस्तूर हाय, किया मजबूर हाय, लेके दिल चुपके से किया मजबूर हाय, लेके दिल चुपके से। आँखों ही आँखों में हो, आँखों में, आँखों ही आँखों में, जाने क्या घात हुई, जाने क्या घात हुई।
Among the vast and often rapid changes that have taken place over the last century of audio recording, it is notable that there is one crucial device invented at the start of the electrical era, which has survived virtually unchanged since its introduction in the 1920s. You will be amazed to know that it's the electroacoustic transducer, or loudspeaker as we know it to be called. Although there have been numerous refinements to the technology, the basic design and function of the dynamic loudspeaker has not changed substantially in 90 years, and it remains overwhelmingly the most common, sonically accurate and reliable means of converting electronic audio signals back into audible sound. We now come to the third period, which is the magnetic era, right about from the 1940s to the mid-1970s. During the magnetic era, sound recordings were usually made on magnetic tape before being transferred to other media. India was still in the vinyl record stage and not much development in the film sound technology. Here is a song from the film Kismet in 1943, 12 years after Alamara. Not much of difference in technology. I picked up a song with singers that were not very well known, Arun Kumar and Amirbai Karnataki. Let's listen to this.
टूट जाएगा किसी की आँख का सपना, टूट जाएगा किसी की आँख का सपना, चुपके चुपके कह रहा है, चुपके चुपके कह रहा है मुझसे मेरा दिल, आ गई देखो मुसाफिर प्यार की मंजिल, मुसाफिर प्यार की मंजिल।
कौन गाता है रुबाई रे, फिर ये किसकी याद आई रे, फिर ये किसकी याद आई रे, किसने पहना दी, हाँ बोलो किसने पहना दी है मुझको प्रेम की माला, किसने मेरी जिंदगी का रंग बदल डाला, रंग बदल डाला।
The magnetic tape technology was invented in the 1930s, but remained restricted to Germany until the end of World War II. The audio quality of pre-recorded programs was practically indistinguishable from a live broadcast. The motivational broadcast tapes of German leaders appeared to be live rather than recorded to all the troops on the front lines. Other concurrent advances in audio technologies led to the introduction of a range of new consumer audio formats and devices on both disc and tape. The change from shellac to polyvinyl plastic for disc manufacture, the invention of the 33 RPM, 12-inch long playing LP disc and the 45 RPM 7-inch single, the introduction of domestic and professional portable tape recorders, the popular 4-track cartridge and compact cassette formats. Let's listen to a short clip of the 1965 song from the film Hamrahi. I picked this song to show how relatively silent instruments like violin and sitar, because of the electronic amplification, played a big part, and Shankar Jaikishan exploited that beautifully in most of their songs.
अपने गले लगा लो है मेरे हमराही तुमको क्या बतलाऊं मैं कि तुमसे कितना प्यार है मुझको अपने गले लगा लो
The next is the last segment, the digital era, about the mid-1970s to today. This was a quick transition where we saw more devices in audio formats than ever before. The 33, 45 and 75 RPM disc was gone. The tape cassettes collapsed. The 4-track and 8-track players came and went. The compact disc almost totally dominated the consumer audio market by the end of the 20th century. But within another decade, rapid developments in computing technology saw it virtually rendered redundant. In just a few years, by the most significant new invention in the history of audio recording, the digital audio file. Many formats, but a couple that most of us will recognize is the .wave, the .mp3, and other similar formats. When combined with newly developed digital signal compression algorithms, which greatly reduced file sizes, digital audio files came to dominate the domestic market, thanks to commercial innovations such as Apple iTunes media application and your popular iPod portable media player. In the digital era, audio recording became increasingly dominated by digital audio workstations, which the engineers call the DAW. The digital era has seen the most rapid, most dramatic, and far-reaching series of changes in the history of audio recording. In a period of fewer than 20 years, all previous recording technologies were rapidly superseded by digital sound encoding, which is happening today. Unlike all previous technologies, which captured a continuous analog of the sounds being recorded, digital recording captured sounds by means of a very dense and rapid series of discrete samples of the sound. When played back through a digital to analog converter, these audio samples are recombined to form a continuous flow of audible sound. However, the introduction of digital audio files in concert with rapid developments in home computing soon led to an unforeseen consequence. And what was that? The widespread, unlicensed distribution of audio and other digital media files. The uploading and downloading of large volumes of digital media files at high speed was facilitated by, as you know, freeware file sharing technologies such as Napster and BitTorrent and hundreds more. That is when piracy started. Music streaming services have gained popularity since the late 2000s. Streaming services offer an alternative method of consuming music, and some follow a freemium business model. In the last few years, there has been such rapid advances in the way people listen to music, which allows them to personalize it to a very great extent. The most popular device on which music is played is obviously on the mobile phone. This places a very huge demand on the quality of music reproduction of the device. That's an entirely different topic altogether. I feel that we have reached an almost live quality representation of music today. Many times I feel that the recorded, amplified and processed sound is better and many times different from the original. But having said that and spoken for the recording industry, I will still take a live concert any day. To listen to the digital revolution in music, I invite you to listen to this music just for the next 60 seconds. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to this channel for more topics like this.